In this video, we'll present the role of Viktor Orbán, the autocrat's architect, in the Trump-Musk game of corruption. Quick review of the basic game rules. The objectives of Trump-Musk, conflicts with the average citizen. In the game, Trump is focusing on reforms benefiting the wealthy, and Musk is benefiting from public support and resources. Their actions will prioritize the interests of the rich and powerful over the welfare of everyday citizens. The players include Trump, Musk, politicians, and the American public who are the pawns in this game struggling to survive. In the corruption game, Viktor Orbán, the autocrat's architect, plays a crucial role as the autocrat and manipulator, a shrewd and strategic leader who uses his position to maintain a firm grip on power through corruption, state control, and undermining democratic institutions. As the Prime Minister of Hungary, Orbán utilizes his political influence to manipulate the system to his advantage, often aligning with authoritarian figures like Putin, while undermining Western democratic norms. His role is central to disrupting democratic systems, promoting cronyism, and consolidating wealth and power at the expense of the people. Viktor Orbán, the autocrat's architect, is a master of political manipulation, using his position to promote state-backed corruption and political patronage. He creates an illiberal democracy where political opposition is suppressed and the state apparatus is used to enrich allies while disenfranchising the public. His role is focused on maintaining control through manipulation of media, legal systems, and economic resources, all while deflecting international pressure and undermining reform efforts. Viktor Orbán, the autocrat's architect. Game strategy centers on undermining accountability, seizing power through legal manipulation, and aligning with authoritarian figures like Putin and Trump to create an axis of corrupt influence. He also disrupts European Union unity by pitting countries against each other, all while strengthening his own position in Hungary. How Orbán plays in the corruption game. First, manipulation of the political system, the puppet master. Orbán's most powerful tool in the game is his ability to manipulate the political system to consolidate power and ensure the status quo remains in his favor. He erodes democratic checks and balances, effectively turning the government into a tool for personal and party gain. The gameplay in Orbán's manipulation of the political system. Suppressing political opposition. Orbán uses his control over Hungary's political system to eliminate or neutralize opposition parties, journalists, and activists who challenge his authority. He controls the media, ensuring that only pro-government narratives reach the public. In a minigame, by playing media manipulation and opposition suppression cards, Orbán silences critics, ensuring his government faces no significant threat from within. This creates an environment where corruption can thrive without fear of exposure. Also under manipulation of the political system gameplay, control of the judiciary and legal system. Orbán consolidates control over Hungary's legal system, ensuring that any legal challenges against his government or his allies are either dismissed or rigged in his favor. This allows him to avoid accountability and further perpetuate corrupt practices. In a minigame, Orbán can activate judicial overhaul cards, which pack the courts with loyalists, ensuring that any legal cases targeting his regime or allies, including those related to corruption, are dismissed or manipulated. The second section in Viktor Orbán's gameplay, economic patronage, crony capitalism. Orbán's role in the game is also defined by his use of state resources to create a network of loyal oligarchs who benefit from government contracts, subsidies, and other state-backed economic opportunities. This crony capitalism ensures that Orbán's allies are enriched while the public suffers from the lack of fair competition and opportunities. Continue with economic patronage crony capitalism gameplay. favoring allies and allies of allies. Orbán funnels state contracts and subsidies to companies owned by his family members or close allies. This creates a system of patronage that ensures loyalty within his circle, while the rest of the country is left with limited opportunities. In a minigame, by creating crony network cards, Orbán ensures that government contracts are handed to loyal business partners, allowing him to build a network of corrupt oligarchs who will defend his rule and perpetuate his corrupt influence. Continue with economic patronage, crony capitalism. Control of key industries. Orbán works to control critical sectors such as energy, construction, and media, using his influence to shape the market to his benefit. He ensures that key industries are either owned by his allies or controlled by the state in ways that benefit his regime's survival. In a minigame, Orbán activates state-controlled economy cards to dominate key industries, ensuring that they serve his interests and the interests of his loyalists, while weakening independent businesses and civil society. The third section in Viktor Orbán's gameplay, disrupting the European Union, the divisive tactician. Orbán's role is to strategically weaken the European Union from within. He uses Hungary's position within the EU to create divisions, block reforms, and ensure that EU efforts to combat corruption or promote democracy are stalled. Orbán positions himself as the main antagonist to EU institutions, allowing him to consolidate power domestically while creating friction within the broader European political landscape. Continuing with the disrupting the European Union gameplay. Victor, blocking EU reforms. Orbán often stands in opposition to EU efforts to curb corruption, protect human rights, or enforce rule of law principles. He uses Hungary's veto power and influence within the EU to block sanctions or political initiatives that might undermine his regime's corrupt activities. In a minigame, Orbán uses EU veto and division cards to prevent the EU from enforcing policies that would pressure Hungary to adopt democratic reforms or take action against corruption within his government. Continue with disrupting the European Union gameplay. Weakening EU unity. Orbán works to create rifts between EU member states, fostering a divide and conquer strategy. He allies with other authoritarian leaders like Putin to destabilize the EU from within and weakens the influence in the international community. In a minigame, by playing Eurosceptic and divide and conquer cards, Orbán weakens unity within the EU, ensuring that collective action against corruption, authoritarianism, and other anti-democratic practices becomes more difficult. The fourth section in Viktor Orbán's gameplay, alignment with authoritarian regimes, the autocratic alliance. Orbán strategically aligns himself with authoritarian leaders like Putin to further his own political interests, protect his regime, and undermine democratic principles. Orbán uses these alliances to circumvent Western sanctions, share resources, and gain diplomatic and financial backing that strengthens his grip on power. Continuing with alignment with authoritarian regimes. Strategic alliance with Putin. Orbán's support for Putin's policies and influence plays a critical role in keeping Hungary in line with Russia's interests, while also shielding his regime from EU and NATO pressure. He can count on Putin for support in the energy sector, media manipulation, and even the undermining of democratic forces. In a minigame, Orbán activates autocratic alliance cards, which facilitate mutual support between his regime and other autocratic regimes, such as Russia or China, creating opportunities for financial backing and diplomatic cover that shield him from global scrutiny. Continuing alignment with authoritarian regimes, the autocratic alliance. Undermining Western influence. Orbán can also work to disrupt Western influence in Hungary, especially from organizations like NATO or human rights groups. He works to build a counter-narrative that positions Hungary as a strong, independent nation, resisting foreign pressure and interference. In a minigame, using anti-Western sentiment cards, Orbán strengthens his populist message that paints the EU and the West as external enemies, allowing him to justify his authoritarian rule and rally public support for his regime. Viktor Orbán, the autocrat's architect. Endgame strategy. Viktor Orbán's ultimate goal in the corruption game is to maintain authoritarian control within Hungary while weakening international efforts to combat corruption, democracy promotion, and the rule of law. His strategy is to ensure that Hungary remains a safe haven for corrupt practices while working to undermine EU unity, block reforms, and expand his network of authoritarian alliances. Orbán consolidates power through economic patronage and control over Hungary's political system, ensuring that corruption thrives under his rule. Orbán alliances with authoritarian regimes, especially Putin, help him bypass Western sanctions and international pressure. And Orbán uses his influence within the EU to create division, blocking efforts to hold him or his allies accountable for corruption, while maintaining a favorable position in global geopolitics. Viktor Orbán, the autocrat's architect. In the endgame, Orbán succeeds in building a corrupt, illiberal regime that remains resistant to democratic reforms, enjoys the protection of autocratic alliances, and effectively undermines international efforts to expose or combat corruption. His influence keeps him entrenched in power, with Hungary serving as a fortress of autocracy in a global sea of democratic struggle. Thank you for watching this video on the role of Viktor Orbán, the autocrat's architect, in the Trump-Musk game of corruption.